last day looking for some information. It's like, okay, I think it's this meeting. Every little, I'm loud and clear.
I don't listen to them either, ever, but because I was gone and I got back and I was just a little upset over the heater. I said, all right, let me go listen to it.
Yep. Every little is loud.
Oh, when you're I've never watched one just because I don't know why. Oh. Yeah. I don't.
Hey, good morning, Coventry voters and guests. Every accomplishment starts with a decision to try, but courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. As we embark on the 2025 annual Coventry Town Meeting, we would like to thank you for attending and participating in town meeting today, your town meeting. Above all, we are here to serve you, our residents, our neighbors, our voters. This is a true demonstration that democracy is alive today in this building. So thank you. Now we have several items for general election guidelines. First, please make sure to either silence or turn off your cell phones. If you wish to speak, the moderator will acknowledge you. Please state your name and then state your comment, your question. And in case of emergency, we do have 3 emergency exits: the front door, the door over towards the kitchen, and this back door. I just ask that election officials and town officials to please assist with any evacuations if needed. Now, the current elected town officials will remain instilled in their positions until the conclusion of this annual meeting. All newly elected officials, please see me after town meeting to sign your oath. Now, for those elections requiring paper ballots, we do have a new procedure in place. Now, most of you, when you came in, you should have received this from me. These are going to be your ballots that we will be using this year. Do not lose these ballots. These are your only ballots that will be provided to you today for voting. Ned Lovejoy, who's standing on the back of the room, he is going to direct each row when it is time to vote. You'll write the candidate name on the paper and then deposit it into the ballot box that's located right here. Now, the color ballot for that election will only be counted for that election. So if we say we're using the pink ballot, you need to use your pink ballot. And of course, as in prior years, if you decide to use a piece of paper that you have, that will not be counted. It needs to be on our official ballots. Now, we do have a few recognitions that we would like to make. First of all, for those residents who have passed during this past year, we would like to take a moment of silence in their honor. And we would also like to welcome all new Coventry residents during this past year. If there are any in attendance and you'd like to stand up and be recognized, please do so. Now, although the town of Coventry is represented by this building, our town office, there are many individuals performing many different tasks to help ensure our residents, our neighbors, our voters are being served. As called, please stand and remain standing. The Coventry Select Board.
We're sure if she was going by name.
No. The Coventry Village School Board and Principal Leads. Coventry officials, whether elected or appointed, including election officials working today, please stand and be recognized for your dedication and service to our town, to our community, and to our voters. Okay, just a few other things. Snacks provided today has been funded by the Coventry Town Foundation. And the foundation thanks Coventry Spice Committee for assisting and handling with this task. Now, the town of Coventry will also be providing a light lunch at the conclusion of the meeting. Again, we thank Coventry Spice for assisting and handling this task for us. And we thank the Westside Deli for preparing the sandwiches. Casella has graciously provided the bags again this year with hand sanitizer and pens. You will also find Girl Scout cookies in each bag donated by the Coventry Town Foundation, as well as a 2025 planner donated by the town of Coventry. The planners may have been every other bag thinking of as far as households. So if you have a bag and there isn't a planner in there, we have some more planners that are out back on the table, so feel free to go ahead and take some of those. You may have noticed that there are 4 birdhouses or bird feeders within the room that have been beautifully constructed by our very own Richard Lucier. At conclusion of town meeting, if you are interested in a chance to win one of them, we will use one of the paper ballots that you'll deposit into the ballot box, and we will have a drawing for all 4 of those bird feeders. So make sure at the end of town meeting, just don't walk. If you want a bird feeder, fill out any one of the ballots and just place it in the ballot box. But you must be present in order to win. Now, there are a few other announcements in our other business on the agenda, so stay tuned. One will be the annual seed vouchers funded by the Coventry Town Foundation. Rabies clinic, we're back to being able to offer that this year. Cabin fever, Rachel Lucier will be able to explain a little bit more in regards to that. Community shred event sponsored by the Coventry Town Foundation. Update from NEK CUD. We have Charles Kahn, who's here, who'll be able to give you a little update on that. Update from Casella. We have Kelly Gleason, who's sitting out back, and she'll be able to go ahead and answer any questions and give us an update about Casella. And we also have our very own Vermont representative, Michael Marcotte, who's in attendance today, and he'll be able to go ahead and provide to us any updates that he may see that may be coming through legislation. Now, I ask for you all to please stand as we cite the Pledge of Allegiance. Then Coventry's 2025 annual town meeting will be brought to order by our moderator, Mike Maxwell. At this time, David Barlow, Jim Cobb, and Ned Lovejoy will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any non-Coventry voters in the room? Okay, Deb, 1, 2, Josh in the back, 3 invitations. Okay, don't let those guys vote. We have one adjustment we got to make before we get started here. If you turn to Article 9, the 4th one down, Jones Memorial Library should read $5,000. And if you look in your town report on page 82, you can see that they did in fact request $5,000. So the total on that article is $26,802. Okay, let's begin with Article 1 to elect a town moderator for the ensuing year.
I'm Dr. Maxwell.
Any other nominations for the position of town moderator for the ensuing year? Okay, will town clerk please cast one ballot for Matt Maxwell for town moderator? Article 2, to elect the following officers required by law. Letter A, select person, 3-year term, currently held by Carrie Keenan.
I nominate Carrie Keenan.
Any other nominations for the position of select person, 3-year term? Okay, let's have the town clerk cast one ballot for Carrie Keenan. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Article 2, letter B, town clerk, 3-year term, currently held by Deb Tangway. Thank you. Second. Any other nominations for the position of town clerk, 3-year term? So the town clerk cast one ballot for Deb Tangway. Thank you, Deb. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Article 2, letter C, delinquent tax collector, 1-year term, currently held by Kate Fletcher.
I nominate Kate Fletcher.
Any other nominations for the position of delinquent tax collector? Okay, great. We'll have one ballot cast for Kate Fletcher, please. Article 2, letter D, first constable, currently held by Pedro Grandin, 1-year term.
I nominate Pedro Grandin.
Any other nominations for the position of first constable? Okay, we'll have one ballot cast in the name of Pedro Grandin. Pedro. Article 2, letter E, second constable, currently held by Israel Sandville, 1-year term.
I nominate Israel Sandville.
Are there any other nominations for the spot of second constable? Okay, we'll have the clerk cast one ballot for Israel Sandville. Thank you, Izzy. Article 2, letter F, trustee of cemetery funds, currently held by Praneet Menon, 1-year term.
I nominate Praneet Menon.
You. Any other nominations for the trustee of cemetery funds? Okay, will the town clerk please cast one ballot in the name of Praneet Menon for trustee of cemetery funds? Thanks, Praneet. Article 2, letter G, planning commission member, 2-year term, currently held by Stephanie Rondo.
I nominate Stephanie Rondo.
Any other nominations for planning commission? Your turn. Great. We'll have the town clerk cast one ballot for Stephanie Rondo. Stephanie. Article 2, letter H, planning commission, 2-year term, currently held by Pedro Grandin.
Nominate Pedro Grandin.
Any other nominations for planning commission member? Okay, we'll have the clerk cast one ballot for Pedro. Article 2, letter I, planning commission member, 2-year term, currently held by Carver Maxwell.
I nominate Carver Maxwell.
Any other nominations for planning commission?
I think there's an error in the planning commission 1 term. Lines up next year.
So is Israel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll circle back to that one then. How about for Carver's spot?
You've been nominated.
Yeah. Okay, one ballot then for Carver Maxwell. All right, so I said the wrong name on letter H. It was, should have been Israel Sandville for planning commission member, 2-year term.
I nominate Israel Sandville.
Thank you. The other nominations for that planning commission spot? Okay, we'll have one ballot cast for Israel Sandville then. Article 2, letter J, cemetery commission member, 2-year term. Jerry St. Severe currently holds this spot.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Jerry has said to me he's not interested in holding that position anymore. It's a 2-year term, and Jerry has been doing the job for about 20 years. Myself and Alyssa Vaughn just become on board last year before a walk from Jerry. There's still some tasks to undertake, but I think we're at a point where we're drafting bylaws, and I think we have a grasp on how things are supposed to run. So if anybody wants to throw their name in and kind of learn along with us, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Said I'm already a trustee. I show up those meetings anyways.
Any nominations for cemetery commission member, 2-year term?
And I'll make that figure out.
Good. Okay, hearing no other, yep, Charles.
Is there any issue with forum?
We both have separate opinions. We're both separate people.
Not that I'm aware of.
Your call.
Okay, so hearing no other nominations, we'll have the clerk. What?
Usually it's
Should be what?
two of the same family being on that board, only because then you can always have, I mean, I understand they're two separate people, they're two separate voices, but they can always group together to outvote the third person who's on that board.
But is there an actual law saying they can't do it? We don't have any other nominations.
Yeah, I don't know about the actual law, but I'm just thinking probably ethically, I don't think that's probably the best way.
Decision two.
Cemetery commission member, you're in charge of the cemeteries.
So as a first time member, it's not gonna entail a whole lot. It'll probably get voted in as vice chair, and you'll just be a big learning curve, and you can decide after 2 years if you want to continue or not. Mostly the chair does a lot of the legwork, as far as selling plots, attending burials, and making sure the paperwork is in order. Our secretary takes minutes, does the agenda and stuff, so the third person on the board is kind of just there if the chair isn't gonna be there, and they need to fill in. But it's not really designated that they have to do that, the secretary can also be that person, so it's really just a person to fill the board, and offer maybe a difference of opinion.
A couple hours a month for time.
Yeah, it'll be, we're shooting for one meeting every quarter. So it's four meetings a year.
Okay, so are we withdrawing?
I would send her.
We're withdrawing the Stephanie Rondo
Yeah.
nomination, and we have a nomination for, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Renee Ford.
Renee Ford. Okay, not hearing any other nominations, the clerk will cast one ballot for Renee Ford for cemetery commission member. Thank you, Renee. All right, moving on to Article 3. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $906,428 for support of fiscal year 2026 town liabilities, and general fund expenses and transfers, of which all shall be raised by non-tax revenues received from the landfill hosting. Thank you, Chris. Second that. I'll second it. Thank you. Any discussion on Article 3? All in favor of the article as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay or no. Article passes as written. Article 4. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $478,089 plus Vermont state aid funding to support fiscal year 2026 town highway fund expenses for summer and winter road maintenance, of which all shall be raised by non-tax revenues received from the landfill host agreement.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Discussion on Article 4. Phil, Praneet, go ahead.
Pretty Bennett, my question is, what caused the drop this year in the overall funding? The budget seems to have gone down, right? Last year was.
Yeah, well, we're
522.
spending a little less on paving this year.
Okay.
And,
Well, this number is strictly the operational
oh, right.
piece
yeah.
of that. And it's a lot of stuff went up, like health insurance, but a bunch of stuff came down based on our spending this year, which is a lot of the maintenance and equipment purchasing that's built into the last year's budget.
Did not quite.
Hasn't happened or turned out not to be needed at the level that we thought. So this is an adjustment back to what I call the reality of this year and previous years. If you look previous years, this year's spending is quite close to what it's been previous years. So going forward, I would anticipate for the operational piece of the road
To be around here.
to be where it's planned. But that doesn't include paving or buying trucks or any of that stuff.
It's supposed to be other capital expenses. That's what it's.
Right, that's a different, those are coming up.
Yep, got it. Thank you, sir.
Anything else on Article 4? All those in favor of Article 4 as written, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay or no? Article 4. All right, Article 5, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $700,823 for summer 2025 paving projects to be paid with fiscal year 2026 funds?
So moved.
Well, we gotta get a motion first, Brandon, before we.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Go ahead, Brandon.
Are they redoing the paving where it's breaking all the pieces?
Not yet, no. This year would be a top coat on all the roads we did base coats on last year, which were Lane Road, Glen Road, and a section of River and Webster Road. And then it'll be a base coat on the remainder of Webster Road. So we'll be adding about 2 miles.
Okay. And Matt, can you just confirm before people speak that they say their name?
Yep, Brenda Paper. Go ahead.
Megan Webster. And I just, with the paving proposal, I just had to say something because I will be voting no for it. And I don't like to do things that make me stand out from other people. I really don't like attention, so. So I am in an interesting position because I am married to one of the people at the front of this room who is partly responsible for this proposal. He does know I plan to do this. He also knows how much anxiety it has given me, because I don't like talking in front of people over the age of maybe 5 years old. So he encouraged me to write it down, so I have it on the paper here. So I have 2 reasons why I will be voting no. The first is just personal, because I was not brave enough to do this last year when we voted for the paving stuff. I've lived on a dirt road my entire life. I assumed I would live on one for my entire life. And I just love it. I will say that the roads I grew up on were a bit more gnarly than Coventry's dirt roads. When I moved here, it was night and day. Our potholes made the front page of the paper where I grew up. Also, my kids all love living on a dirt road, so part of this is for them because they're pretty sad to think about.
That was classic.
We're all pretty sad thinking about the roads. There's just a feeling we get when we turn onto a paved road, and it's just that feeling of being home. So if our road gets paved, I know it likely will. We will survive. We will get used to it. It's just going to feel a little bit less like home to me. The second reason is just the financial part. I'm learning through these projects that paving is very, very expensive, not just when you do it the first time, but over time. And I'm curious as to if paving all of our roads is a sustainable investment for our rural community. And wondered if the select board has done any calculations as to like what it's going to cost us in the long term, and when we don't have the financial help from the dump for the landfill.
Thank you, Megan. Anything else on Article 5?
Oh. So
Leo?
is that a question?
What?
Is that a question?
That's what a question.
Didn't you get, what's the financial?
Oh, we don't know that off the top of our head, Leo.
They said what I'm sorry, I was talking. I'm good to go.
You're good to go.
Okay.
Just state your name.
Devin Van Bacher.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm with Megan. I grew up on a dirt road. I'm gonna vote no. I know it's a little biased. I understand the thought of the annoyance of having to bring vehicles, equipment, whether it's the grader, switch the plow over all the way over to the other side of town just to take care of their road. I understand that's probably not realistic, and I'm sure it'll get paved anyway, but I just wanted to throw out a couple different facts. So I wrote down some things here that I've noticed, and just being an environmentalist, and I pay attention to a lot of the wildlife around where we are. We have fairly high amount of wildlife here in Coventry, but specifically on Webster Road due to all the farm fields and the woods that are nearby the road. So one of the things that I've noticed is ungulates being hoofed animals, specifically split toe, meaning cows, deer, moose, all of them have a harder time walking around on
paved roads. They tend to slip, they get hurt, so because of that, there usually tends to be an influx of vehicle collisions with animals. Another thing is with the salt, all mammals need salt to survive. It works with vital organ function and everything like that. So because there's an influx of salt, and again, this goes everywhere, but specifically where we are, you tend to find, especially in the spring, a lot more animals alongside the road, a lot more mammals alongside the road, because they're trying to ingest some of the salt that's there. So again, another reason for potentially more animals being hit. Let's see, it increased sodium lowers or increases the acidity of the soil alongside the road. So a lot of the native wildlife, a lot of the native vegetation that we have along the roads tends to be impeded on, to be not having too much sodium and altering the pH, and then also being able to inhibit how they absorb nutrients through the soil and other means. So you end up losing a fair bit of native wildlife that likes the disturbed soil alongside roads or vegetation, sorry. And the other thing is the waterways. That's kind of bothering me, seeing salt going straight into the river, seeing salt go straight into the streams and the waterways that go alongside the road. I know just from working for Dan, when it comes to spreading manure, we have to be careful how close we get to the roads, how close we get to the waterways. The fact that the road is right there, especially down on the Barton River at the bottom of Webster Road, seeing all that salt just go into the water, again, alters the salinity of the river. I know it just kind of flows and it really only spikes during the spring when all of it's starting to flow away. There's just a couple things that I've noticed with paving roads, specifically along waterways, and also just the impeding of migration for different species via, reptiles, amphibians, all these different animals that ensure that like using the paved roads or the dirt roads and not the paved roads. One, maybe it's the temperature, maybe it's the salt, maybe it's just the fact that people drive faster. All these different things I've noticed as roads get more paved that we have impeded wildlife. And again, that's just my point of view. That's it.
Thank you. Well, my first question is there, Leo Piat, does the town have a paving capital budget for the next 3-4 years? Yes or no?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
We spent what, 3-4 million already on paving?
Yep.
And so moving forward, to continue to pave everything, has there been any cost savings analysis by paving the roads? Does it actually save the town any money to pave the road?
We've not done that, Leo.
So there's been, okay. Then the town has 1 or 2 gravel pits.
2.
And as we continue to pave, we'll be using less winter gravel. The gravel basically we already own because we own the gravel pit. But we have to buy salt every year. And the article the other day in the newspaper said that Tallahassee ran low and we had to get more in. So it looks like it's going to cost us more to take care of paved roads than it would have to just have left them as dirt.
Yeah, possible.
Is that true?
I suspect that's probably true on the short term, but without having those numbers in front of me for an educated conversation, I can't have it.
Right.
The town
spent, we're going to push 4 or 5 million, and I'm not sure what the people of the town of Coventry gained by having paved roads.
So this is an article similar to others that are going to be coming up, where we're not sitting here saying you should vote one way or the other. What's happened over time with paving is that the overwhelming response that we have received from residents is that they like it and they do want it, and those votes have been overwhelmingly supportive of the projects. So we've taken that as the purpose at hand that folks want to continue to do that for all of their various side of the coin, right? There's two sides to each coin. We have not done those things that you're talking about. We should, we will, we can do that. It's not a big deal to do that. That's, the state probably has already done that, and we could just get that information from them. So what we've done the last couple of years is introduce articles to you, consistent with what's been happening the last 5 years, 10 years. And what we're doing now is looking at it a little bit more big picture and saying, well, we've sort of, we've made it a little bit hard on ourselves in the map of where these paved roads were paved first, being, somebody had said it earlier, different trucks now with different routes. It's a little bit disjointed, and it's actually costing us more man time and energy having it the way it currently is, and you're not going to go rip tar roads up. So now what we are doing this year, the bulk of that article is paying for top coats of base coats that you approved last year. You have to do that to sustain your developed road that you've already spent money on. The new base is to connect the airport road, which is tar, down to the flooding area that we've resolved some issues with, the hard surface down there, connecting those so the same trucks can do the work, which is all inclusive of what you have in front of you today. The bigger conversation that we're listening to today should be had, I'm sure. We could do a better job of presenting both sides of a picture on that for the group, but it really isn't really consistent with what this particular article is for, which is mostly top coats.
To maintain what we've already done.
Yeah.
Keep it so it's the.
Well, it's put one, you've put one coat on, and so to not put the top coat on, it's not gonna last.
Sure.
Yeah, and so you will have hurt yourself.
Dale Fairwood. I do know, I had over 20 years with the state of Vermont Highway Department, and it does cost more to maintain a paved road than it does gravel road. And I guess I'm concerned with the state where the town is going. I don't feel the town should pave every road in the town. I think you're going down a black hole. Eventually, if you don't have the base for it, you're gonna have ruts. You're gonna be patching, cold patch, hot patch, repaving. I'm not sure what it's cost you per mile now to pave base coat, but it's costing you per mile to put top coat. And then every so often you're doing your crack sealing. It's just endless costs keep coming up when you pave the road. And I know on our road got paved, I really didn't want it paved, but there is no shoulder. So now the road is not wide enough for two cars to meet. So somebody has to get off the shoulder of the road when they meet somebody. And hopefully it's not a soft spot. And now during the winter, because the way the road's plowed, they're plowing this pavement, you're gonna have to go off into the snow bank to get your room to meet another car on that road, which doesn't make it any safer. So I guess I'm concerned with where the town's going with paving all the roads. I mean, that should have been some of the cost analysis or looking into that should have been done before we started. And then if you're gonna do it, you should have picked out the roads ahead of time to know, so now you're not making these connections. Because Webster Road, I'm sure have a lot of farm equipment on it. And that's just gonna eat your pavement up in no time with it. Heavy loads from the manure, from bulk tanks, from the milk, haylage, everything that they do for cropping goes on those, they're overweight. And the country roads are not, have a base to sustain that. So you're gonna be fixing those paved roads all the time. So I'm just telling you that I don't think probably we should be going down this road. Thank you.
Daniel Rondo. So I think you covered a couple of my questions already that came up while we were talking. And that second coat is kind of needed at this point in time. If we don't do it, we're throwing money away that we've already spent. And then, the issue of gravel pits came up, and my question would be, can we sell gravel to offset our cost of salt out of our pits to other towns that don't have gravel pits? Might be a way to approach that. Webster Road, there was rumor that it was needed because of maintenance at the bottom, because of the flooding issue. Is that flooding issue solved, or is the pavement gonna shore that up to make it so that we don't have an issue in the future, or are we just throwing money at a road that's gonna wash out again, and now we have pavement on it, we have more dollars for the road?
So the section down there is a little more complicated than that. There was a very small section on the River Road that was paved prior. It's between the bridges that was paved prior because of essentially having it wash out all the time. He's gone, I guess, but so that actually worked. That section of road held up over all of the floods with that hard surface. That section of that intersection area down there in a very small condensed area has 3 bridges, a 4-way intersection, and 2 railroad crossings. It's very difficult for the guys to keep that area with a grader up to snuff the way we all expect our roads to be. They're chasing down there constantly to deal with those railroads, and then anytime the rivers rise, it's, you know, they're down there working on those things. We had some FEMA repairs done this last year, which was helpful for us for sure. And we took that opportunity. It worked out well because we took that opportunity and we got that shored up on the base coats in that whole area, so that there's no grader work there anymore, which was very, very time consuming.
So we kind of solved the issue.
Hopefully, I think we've mitigated a lot of problems that we've been having to deal with each year in the past, but that's a base coat.
And then when it comes to the airport road, is Irisburg gonna pave their side? There was rumor that they were trying to reclassify their side of the road so that way they can pave from.
It has been reclassified.
So
So is ours. Ours is all a class 2.
Yep.
So essentially, they're gonna go ahead and, I mean, I can't speak for them, but the idea is they're gonna go ahead and pave that and leave a short section of our side that isn't paved.
Ours is paved.
Ours is
It's paved all the way there?
Yep.
Okay. I guess that answers that question.
Yep.
And
And
you
they're-
want to call the question on this one?
I call the question.
Thank you. Wait, I'm pretty call the questions. We're gonna vote right on this one. So all in favor of Article 5 as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Article
Can
6.
can I say something?
You sure can.
We will commit to do a better job on this for you next year, though. Well, I heard talk about, you know, the disjointed efforts, the costs, a better job at mapping so that we can all see that. We will do that so that this conversation next year can be developed further.
And this money, just because it's appropriated, doesn't mean you have to pave all those roads that you just mentioned, right? You can do top coats, and then if people come to your meetings and express concern about other places, you can decide not to do Webster Road, right?
Well, you gotta be careful there. It's a contract situation. You got a price kind of locked in. There's been a lot of work in preparation to develop that number for you, where the company we can say that, right?
Yep.
We've accepted Hutchins' bid, which was lower again than Pike's. Extremely good. Yeah.
There's not a way to separate the two in the different articles, top coat being one and then paving Webster Road being a separate one.
We could do those things for you guys next year. Let us do some work and develop some plans, and we can have that whole conversation in select board meetings. Yep.
Sure.
Since they paved Coventry Station Road, the cars go like a bat out of hell. And it's very dangerous for the tractors, for the trucks, everybody. You know, it's just unreal. And there's so much more traffic than we used.
Yeah, let me show. The
the road, like the airport or the Coventry Station Road, they're 50-mile-an-hour zones, correct? Because they were reclassified.
Some sections of them are 50 miles on here.
Okay, because I know on the airport road, we have problems with the kids, like going across the road and dogs, and I mean, we're always going to neighbors. And I talked to a sheriff, and he said that the road was reclassified or never classified as a 35-mile-an-hour zone, but the road is posted 35, but he said that he will not stop any car on that road driving 50. He said that the road is classified as a 50-mile-an-hour zone, and they will not ticket for driving 50-mile-an-hour, even though it's posted at 35.
Sorry, Matt, I kept it going.
All right, we're gonna move on here to Article 6. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote in favor of the select board accepting a proposal for the design and construction of an addition to the Route 14 town garage? Estimated cost of the project is $1.5 million.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Discussion on Article 6. Green?
Can you give us an overview on what this is going to be?
Jim, you want to start?
Sure.
Uses, functions, yeah.
Let Jim start because he yelled at me a lot this week.
Pretty well prepared for this. We went through this last year.
Yep.
And it was basically voted no because we weren't prepared. We didn't know what we were voting for or how much true price. I think this gets us closer, but we're still not there. 1.5 million is probably a fair price.
Okay.
I've gone and looked at the new Barton buildings, seen what they built. It has to be engineered now. Engineer cost alone for ours is probably around 200,000.
Okay.
You have to have it.
Yep.
We need more building. We've got more equipment. It's expensive, foolish to just leave it outdoors. And aside from a new building, the building that's there is 25 years old, I think. Needs a lot of maintenance, bring it up to snuff of what it should be for today's fuel use and all that. We are using quite a bit of fuel. It's too tight to work in there for some of our equipment. The town crew makes do. We definitely need something done up there, but we need more time, I feel, to get it right for all you guys, to know what you're getting, and perhaps do something like the school did, whereas you hire on the low end from an engineer to prepare some sketches, invite you folks back in here halfway through the year, propose something and come back here with a real budget next year, something that's firm, something that's been bid on. So basically rewriting this, knowing that we are talking about 1.5 million, but rewrite it based on, let's start by authorizing the town to hire an engineer to do the bare minimum right now to procure some prints and something you folks can see, and perhaps the design could include what we already have, because how many of you folks even know what our buildings look like up there in the gravel pit? It'd be nice for you all to be well informed and invited to an open forum like the school did and have your say. So I would promote the idea of rewriting this, giving the select board the right to hire an engineer on the low end, not 200,000, to provide what we need to get this going.
Can I do a follow on that?
You may.
Okay, so the way it's written, it sounded to me like there was already a proposal that y'all had in place, but that's not really what it is. So we're looking to go and hire. So could we reword to say that we authorize the select board to send out bids for we can't do that?
You only change the dollar amount of an article, you cannot change what any other additional part of the article.
Because I mean, the way it's written to me, like again, like I said, it reads as if we have a proposal from someone and the estimated cost is 1.5. But what I'm hearing is that we think it might be 1.5. And I understand that, I mean, we're going with estimates, right? We don't have the full value yet.
We have personal estimates from area contractors,
Okay,
but no matter what, the state's involved. And permits and all that are required. So you basically have to put it out permit, no different than you guys did with the school and it came back higher.
Yep.
What do you do then? And you
Come back, yeah.
involve the town.
Yep.
I think it's the best way to do it. That way you all understand what's happening.
Yep.
And we're waiting another year for a garage.
Right.
And if, once the prints are even made, the proposal the engineer did send, it's 6 months to get that print.
Oh, sure.
And you're looking at a month and a half, maybe 2 months before you've got firm bids and a decision. So that gives us time right now to put it all together. So we got a solid figure. And those of you that wanted to be involved in the decision-making had every right and ability to do so.
So what's the 1.5 going to pay for, I guess?
That suggested that it's the building, cost of a building, 1.5 for a 3-stall garage, high posted and all, but greener than what we have, so to speak. We have a 25-year-old building that we've got experience with these buildings, and it's needing some maintenance, some re-insulating, have a better look at it, and some changes. But for the garage purposes, we need another 3-bay garage.
Right, it's just going to be an addition like 60 by 60, right?
Yeah, 50 by 60 is realistic. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm for it, like, I'm just not, the only part that's kind of sticking to me is that language there, which says that we're going to be putting aside 1.5 million.
Well, it gives them a chance to bring that money up instead of take it all out right now.
Okay.
We're looking at finished product, 2 years, year and a half, year and 3 quarters. And instead of taking it all out right now and saying, here it is, they can put that into the wealth fund, some of it, earning money. It just makes it easier to collect it rather than just plain do it. And you're doing it blindly, not knowing what the needs really are. It needs, I have a definition that was written by Nathan Standish, with Harvard B. Road Foreman, of what he would like. That's a topic that should be shared with several people. What he wants, I kind of agree with, but you folks need to understand what's involved as far as equipment, the millions of dollars we've spent on equipment. How do we house it? How do we maintain it? All that. And so it requires a building, no question. 2-stall at a minimum, but 3rd stall for future, with the concept that that 3rd stall is costing very little, seeing you're already there building it.
Okay, Leo first.
Well, so the question is, if the warning is stated estimated cost, what are we voting on? We're voting on.
You're voting on the select,
$1.5
you're voting on the select board moving forward on a addition to the town record. You're not voting on any money.
That's
just,
what I thought.
yeah,
Okay,
that's just an estimate. You're not voting on any money today.
Okay.
You're saying whether you want these 3 people to continue the process of adding on to that town record.
That's what I was.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
There's not forget, we're voting on money too.
Yeah.
How much is the low end? How much will a low end in your cost?
Get me in here, Matt.
Yeah, you're next. Well, I got Mr. Hinton here too.
It'll help a lot of that.
Okay.
How much will a low end in your cost?
200,000, Mark.
Why not just change that number to 200,000 if this is a long-term, long-year project anyway?
Well, we probably should have done that, but.
Can we amend it?
Get me in here, Matt.
Scott?
All right, so thank you, Jim. Everybody should know that Jim has done a really good job at everything that he just said was from some education. He's done a lot of he's done a lot of work for you in helping us to understand the moving parts. I want to just back it up for a little bit. Last year, there was a proposal for the addition of a garage. The select board wasn't unanimous in its thinking on how to proceed on that. We did have some disagreements. We decided to bring it to the town for some guidance. There was a number last year, I'm gonna get it wrong, but it was around $350,000 or so, which we mostly thought was well under what the reality is. We had that discussion. I told you then you should all vote no and tell us to do a lot better job for you to present something that's real. So it was defeated last year and you asked us to go do some more work for you to figure that out. We've gone and done more work. Matt did a good job and found a company who has helped many municipalities do this sort of construction. We met with him, we've discussed issues, he's provided us with that estimate of about 1.5 million for the project. That makes a lot more sense than the 350, right? But our discussions with him and with ourselves, we got to a spot that incurred costs to continue the discussion. So permitting, as Jim mentioned, blueprints, as Jim mentioned, this is a construction project that those initial steps cost in the potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to proceed. This board said, we're not going to spend a couple of $100,000 to get a better answer for the town until they approve us to do that. So the reason of the funky language in there, and we could have done a better job with that, is essentially to say we're probably trying to pull back here a little bit. A, based on the big price tag. B, based on what it's going to cost you to actually see the right price tag with the blueprints and the permitting. There's real costs to that. Jim's absolutely right. And so I think what we're saying is you could vote no, probably a good idea today, and tell us again, do a lot better job, get to the next step. But what we also want to do is have a conversation today around, do you have the appetite for spending 1.5 million on a garage addition? That's really the heart of the conversation that we want to hear and we want to see, because we don't want to spend here a couple $100,000 and then not have the appetite to go forward for the 1.5 million. So how to fund those things, there's different scenarios we could do. It doesn't actually include or there's no real need for that. We actually have restricted funds where we have the money set aside that you've put into those funds over the years to be able to pay for those upfront costs. We don't need specific votes on that in order to do that. But again, we don't want to spend that amount of money if you don't have the appetite to spend 1.5. That's kind of where we're at.
Christina?
Christina Fletcher. So this is Route 14. This is in addition to our garage we already have, so we'll have two garages.
Just to know.
But I thought Route 14 was a salt shed.
No, it's a garage.
It's a full garage.
There's a salt shed there too.
I thought we originally needed a new salt shed.
We got one.
We did.
We built one.
And that was through ARPA funds? How did that come about?
Most of it.
Yeah, most of that was through our funds.
So what do we have in the garage on 14? I don't think I've ever seen it. Maybe I've driven
Most of the
by it.
trucks, well, Josh, what's up there?
We got a bathroom for good dump trucks, and that's it.
So it's
in that
basically a
shop.
2-bay garage with a bathroom?
Yeah.
And you want to do an addition or you want to rebuild it?
Addition.
It's a combination though, right? You know, updating the old one.
So the other thing that Jim was alluding to, and he got them mostly all right, I think, which is again to sort of remember back that the town of Coventry for many years contracted the majority of its services. So you didn't have that equipment. We contracted the plowing and a lot of that work. We had a grader and we had one full-time employee, and there were seasonal employees. And the decision over the last, I don't know now, 10 years maybe, is to adjust that so that you have full complement staff yourselves and you have the equipment necessary to maintain your road systems and not contract the service. We didn't have the garage space and the equipment all up front in order to make that happen. So it's kind of been a staged event. The old garage here on Main Street is just, it is heated right now, but the theory is probably we're looking at cold storage on that so that it's less cost. And then you just don't have the space now for the equipment that you have to not contract services. You need the extra space. And so we're trying to figure out how do we do that. The most sensible, slow approach, I like Jim's so far is the best one I've heard, which is go slow, take a couple of years, do it right, do a 50-year decision. Let's not keep, going at it piece at a time. Let's do a good comprehensive decision making, but there's cost to that. So the cost of a couple of $100,000 up front for your blueprints, your permitting, and all of those steps that are necessary prior to breaking ground is necessary, and it's a real cost. Again, is there an appetite for the real cost? That's sort of what we want to know. Is there the appetite for it?
Yeah, what is the construction for like 15 years? I've done maintenance for like the past 6 years. And like Jim says, a 25-year-old building, we're better off just to build a brand new building and do like $2.5 million. So we have a brand new facility instead of addition under a 25-year-old building. That's
It's a steel building, an inexpensive steel building. And at a minimum, it's good for cold storage. It houses right now 2 plow trucks. And if they don't have any other equipment in there, they keep the plows on, which a considerable amount of time to disconnect that plow out of the yard and then reconnect for the next snowstorm is what they were doing earlier. Because they had backhoe, has multiple pieces of equipment, and we're getting another new truck that another year it'll be here that everybody approved 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. So 3 employees, 3 full-time employees, 3 trucks to do your roads.
Well, I just didn't know if it'd be further ahead, just build a whole brand new 6-bay building that we have room for growth. We're gonna buy more stuff.
Barton's did that. Yeah, and Barton's is on the way on Route 5, partway to Barton from Orleans. And I visited, they're getting ready to move into it. I think it probably is fair to say they got quite a few grants and they had some money set aside. What it cost the town, not talking about the grants that we could get to probably, was 2.4 million, or one double the size of what we're asking. But you gotta bring them utilities, the heating system and all over to a 3-bay and add that in is why 1.5 is probably close to what it is. They also had an engineer. It's an extraordinary building that they have. And it is insulated, so they're not making ice. We're making ice up here. Dangerous ice at times, because it falls down in front of the garage doors. It's the time it was built, it was what this town probably could afford. Don Gallup, I assume, was involved in that, and no different than Dave. They always looked out for the town to not spend any more, and we have to. We're spending quite a bit of oil up there to heat a building that's poorly insulated. So that needs to come into this whole picture too, with all of you involved in it. It's just that information isn't all here yet. We could just copy Barton's. I'm sure it's more than what we need.
Well, if we do some of that, let's engineer and stuff, and maybe it's already been engineered, so they cut some costs.
Richard, go ahead.
Richard Lucia. Last night at the school informational meeting, we learned that the busing will be done by the butlers anymore, it's going through the supervisory union. But my question at this point do those buses have to be stored during the winter somewhere? So we may be looking at even a bigger garage than we're talking about now. What do you do with those buses?
I believe the supervisory of the year there, right? That's.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be at the supervisory, they'll be responsible for that aspect.
So the people have to go over there to get the buses to come to work?
Yes.
Hey, let's stick to this, let's stick to this article right
No,
here.
I was thinking.
No, I know, but we're getting a little,
If
we're getting a
we
little
build
off,
the
we're getting a
garage, we
little
now
off
have
topic
more
here,
space,
Devin.
so I like the big picture thinking, Richard. You know what, I think that might be something we can consider too.
Thank you.
I agree. So if there's a pinch and we need, maybe there's some extra space.
Just to clarify real quick, so the addition is a 3 base, there'd be 5 base total, yes?
Correct.
Is that enough to house everything that we have right now,
Yes.
plus the new truck that will be coming in?
Yep.
Okay.
Does that remove what's down here as
No.
well?
Using that too.
Mike,
Mike, I've got, two things. I think the way the article is drafted right now, it gives the authority to the select board to accept a proposal and build the building, basically. And I think it probably would have been better to say, can authorizing the select board to spend up to $200,000 to take a look at engineering, and I think that would have given you what the town desires to do. I think you can still get there by having an informational vote at the end of the meeting on the last article. So that might get you where you need to go. I'm wondering if, because I didn't know there were issues with insulation and heating, if we actually were able to utilize the state funds that were out there to help municipalities insulate their buildings. And, I think it will, I don't know if those funds are available anymore.
The town did get $402,000 in the MERP grant to upgrade the heating and insulation of this building, the town garage here on Main Street, and then the Route 14 building. So that's in the works.
So that's not even discussed of savings.
What's that?
By building a bigger building, we're not gonna be leaving our other buildings. We're gonna upgrade our other building with this grant money that the state.
Correct.
granted us for efficiency. So we're already going to, in the short run, we're gonna update both buildings so there were no lights on the roof and heating costs are lower. Without our own money, I believe, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we do have a short-term Band-Aid or whatever.
yeah,
Kind of.
yep, you're correct.
So can I have the floor back?
Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry.
So I think that what we should do is vote this article down or table it, one or the other. And then continue the discussion at the end of the meeting, if we need to discuss it, and just hold a straw vote to inform the select board on the town's position on where we want to go with this addition. And I'm glad to hear that we're utilizing those state funds. And I think the issue of, making ice up there has got to stop. And I think that we could, with another addition, turn something into something good up there. I just wonder if it's really worth insulating this garage down here if we're going to cold storage.
No, that's. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me about the ARPA stuff. So that there's a good plan for that. I agree with you, Mike, that I think that this article in its entirety should be voted down. I also am just looking quickly to give people the knowledge that your current buildings and maintenance fund has $670,000 in it. Okay, and we've had that discussion a lot the last 2 or 3 years, which is that's already approved funds for the select board to use for for those types of purpose. So my suggestion to you is, yes, I love that.
Whether or not to utilize those funds.
Yes.
Get it started.
And there's no issue with your budgeting that way. You're not bringing back any money from a wealth fund. You have that money. You've set it aside for those types of things. But it's an educational thing, right? this is the time for these discussions. And so the money is sitting there. We can take that next step. We don't want to spend that money if there's not the appetite for the big price tag.
Are you ready to?
Can I rescind this motion then?
Well, we can just call the question going down.
Mike's move to table.
Okay, we have a motion, move to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Article 7. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote in favor of the select board adopting a town ordinance regulating domestic animals? So, thank you. Second somewhere, somebody, Chris, thank you. Discussion on article number 7.
Why just domestic animals?
Hold on, I get this guy over here first, yeah.
I'm Rob Geisler. I used to be the animal control officer for Coventry 7 years ago, and then Renee had taken over. And I just want to kind of bring up the reason for this thing is that there was no basic animal ordinance in Coventry. So as the animal control officer, you get called out to houses, and you have a place where there's a dog barking nonstop through the night, or dogs coming onto somebody's property. And the animal control officer, there was just nothing they could do about it, because there's no ordinance to cover it. There's a small ordinance that covers the village, but it didn't cover the rest of the town. So this was an attempt just to get a basic ordinance on the books for domestic animals. So that the animal control officer has some tools that they can use for domestic.
Can you clarify a little?
Well, Pedro's next. And
So I just
Oh,
want to encourage
sorry.
everybody that there's a real need for this, and I really want to encourage people to.
So what do you mean by domestic animals? How do you, what's classified? Is it just pets? or-
Cows, pigs, goats.
Perfect, that's all I need.
Okay,
Can,
pretty, Carrie?
can we just add that we do have a dog ordinance now, and that's townwide, not just the village?
Yeah, it was updated recently.
Yes, and so we've had a pig bite somebody. There's been, cows and bulls on the neighbor's property, and don't feel safe going out of their house. So that's what this would cover.
More livestock than dogs and cats.
That's kind of what I wanted to hit on is we had an issue with bovine creatures moving across our yard. Put it that way. Our neighbors' apple tree been taken down, and then obviously I'm sure everybody heard about the cows ending up on the interstate. So it's for things like this, right? Like, I mean, we've got property, my daughter goes out and plays, and I've seen hoof marks where she's at, and we've seen bulls with gigantic horns walking around. So it's just, while I am totally sympathetic about these animals and I totally want them to live and have or be eaten, depending on where you stand. I just think that if you want to go to happy animals, be responsible for it. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna expand for what Carrie was stating, because yes, we do have a dog ordinance, which was not fully to where it should have been. The select board graciously went ahead, we gave them our concern, they went ahead, we made the changes, so that has been enacted. So now the dog ordinance does cover the whole entire town of Coventry, and just not within the village. More specifically, this article, like Carrie irritated to, is for the livestock, is for, the cows, the pigs, the chickens, the whatever. They come onto your property, you as neighbors, us as a town, we do not have anything within our power to be able to assist you with these issues. By having this ordinance, you're now given the town the ability to be able to, you come to us, I've had an issue with my neighbors. They have these cows, they come on my field, they eat my trees. Now we've got the power to be able to actually do something to assist you. Right now, we don't. Now, if Praneeth's neighbor has cows, they come over onto his land, he's absolutely happy the cows are on his land. He doesn't have an issue with that. That's okay. He can still allow that to happen, even though this ordinance is in place. This ordinance is just if Praneeth's neighbor, he does not want those cows continuing on his lawn, eating his garden. Now he has an avenue that he can come to the town and ask for guidance and get in that way.
Is this ordinance already been drafted, or is this something you guys are looking into?
That's what I was just looking for. We,
No, we have to
We've
go,
just got-
there's a process, there's a whole process. This is just, if you
Let me
want
see
us,
that,
if you
Carrie.
want them to start the
I think
process,
that's from
then we'll do it.
VLCT.
We'd have to draft an ordinance, it'd have to be posted for a certain number of days, and if anybody is not happy with that ordinance, then we have to have a special town meeting.
Okay.
So
That's exactly it. People will have.
Devin,
If this goes through, would there be some sort of quote unquote officer that is like Coventry's ordinance?
yeah, well, we got Renee, and then Izzy's been helping her
Okay.
with the dog stuff, so I assume it would be those two. Yeah. Like,
And just to go a little bit on procedure, once the select board adopts or can adopt on their own an ordinance, if members of the town don't like what they've written, 5% of the voters can petition to have a statewide, town-wide meeting and have a vote on it. Or the select board could draft it and then ask for a town-wide meeting in order to vote on it as well. So
yeah.
there's still a big process before anything happens.
Yep. Scott?
thank you, Mike. Always a trigger for, that you always have to throw us out of here. Thank you, Deb. The select board did adjust the dog ordinance this past year because it was necessary, and we got a lot of feedback around that. And Deb did a lot of work, and Renee did a lot of work, and Carrie did a lot of work. Those three folks did all that work for us, and we went through the established process of taking care of that. During those conversations, it's fair to say, and then thereafter, we were receiving, the town was receiving very, very significant issues in complaint form from neighbors that had it with their neighbors' pigs and other and large animals, and we have no ability to do that. So we could have then just started the ordinance process. And we talked about that, and what we discussed was, instead of doing that, because there's limited or no participation, because that's life now, people don't go to those special meetings because they just are busy. You're all busy, but we all know you're here today, and so we thought, let's put it on town meeting. Instead of doing it with 3 or 4 participants, let's put it into town meeting to again get a temperature of the room to say, do you feel that this is warranted? Do you want us to take that step to go through the process, the regulatory process of enacting the new ordinance? That's why it's here today, and not just the normal, all of a sudden you woke up one day and you had a town ordinance. We don't want to do that to you. So that's why it's here for you to tell us if you want it or not.
Christina?
I was just wondering about the term domestic. I mean, if somebody wanted to challenge this in the future, would that really hold up?
I think so, because there's lots of towns in the state have a domestic animal ordinance. It's pretty common in a lot of
So
towns.
domestic will cover livestock if it was challenged.
Yeah.
In the ordinance, you just define domestic animal ordinance.
What's that?
In the ordinance, you just define.
Yeah, it'll be pretty specifically spelled out once.
If you read it. it talks
So-
about livestock.
So Mike is right. Let Mike do it.
I believe that domestic is defined in statute.
Right here.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
utilize that.
So what Mike has said earlier, and I tried to say, not very well maybe, is that you're telling us today if you want one, right? And then we have to go through the process. We have already done a bit of work, Carrie, in the group with VLCT, and we've got draft forms, and they've visited other towns to see what they have. So of course, there's all of that in there. We're not doing that today. We're just, again, asking you, is there, I'm sure you're all aware of what the issues, some of what those issues were. So do you want us to take this step for you?
You ready to go on this one?
Here we go. I've got a question on that. We've got a well situation above ground as well. The chickens that wander on the property and in the well, don't have to be long. Just
those on
there. Cover.
This will help you.
Under that definition, I think it's chickens, yeah.
I just hate to see the town lose the farming atmosphere and have us all going out like New York or some other place. You know, just- Oh, I do, Todd, believe me, it's not easy.
We ready to go on this one yet? Okay, let's take a vote here. All in favor, Article 7, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mike.
Article 8, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote in favor of the select board pursuing a non-binding resolution to the issues involving the gravel pit parcel on Hancock Hill?
So,
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Discussion on article number 8. Mike?
Tonight, you fill me in on what's on the binding.
Scott?
This is the most difficult issue we have today. Last summer, the select board received a complaint from a neighbor to the farm up on Hancock Hill and wanted to know what was going on. We didn't know what was going on. So we had to figure that out. So essentially, what this is, Mike, is the second gravel pit that the town owns and uses today, the town purchased 15 or so years ago from the Ospherics. The deed work on that transaction isn't helpful for the towns controlling the area. The previous owners have been renting the land to other people. It would appear that the spirit of the action originally, when the deed was created to purchase the land, was that that farm, which was a working farm then, could continue to use the cropland. I think that was the spirit of it. I think we've all agreed that that was the spirit of the effort. Unfortunately, with all good intentions, sometimes it hasn't played out that way. And so the previous owners are out of farming now, primarily, and have been renting or leasing, whichever one it is, the town's land to other people and making money on it. This last year, it came to a head with the neighbors because the people who were actually renting or leasing changed and the purpose of the land changed. So instead of having hay and doing a traditional field that has been there forever, it's been sprayed, plowed up, and corn. A lot bigger equipment, a lot different equipment. Everybody knows that the difference is there. And so it wasn't welcomed by the neighbors. They came, they made a complaint. We had to immerse ourselves in the situation, figure it out, see what the deed work was, see how is this even happening. We have had personal visits to the farm. We've talked with parties, hoping that we could resolve the matters and figure out the best way forward. Those opportunities have come to an end. There's not any movement on the issue from the others, and they're still planning to keep doing what they're doing and renting your land for their profit. And so we don't believe as a group that that's quite right, and that there's a lot of issues to think through there. So we sent the deed to the town's attorney to say, hey, take a cursory look at this, figure out, what your thoughts and opinions are. Are there issues? Obviously, there are. A little bit more time went on. We had some more interactions. I asked Matt get a more independent review of that, get it over to VLCT. Matt did that for us. They're speaking, not trying to speak for you, Matt, but I guess their response was worse than our own attorneys in that we've got a big problem in what's happening there. We kind of had to come back to that once again and say, okay, well, now we've got a lot of problems going on. We got a lot of liability issues. We got some insurance issues. Not to overstate the case that it's probably not a good idea just in its base element of allowing or having somebody renting your land and making money on it. So we kind of got to that spot where discussions broke down. Those folks weren't interested in coming to any meetings. They really weren't interested in talking to at least me anymore. And I know Dan made a lot of efforts. I know Matt's made a lot of efforts. And so we got to a spot of stop for those at least proper and positive communications. And so we've discussed it and said in meetings and said, you know, once again, like some of these other issues, we do have the authority through our positions to go deal with this, but it's a sensitive one. There's a lot of things to think about there. There's going to be a lot of people probably are going to get really, really mad at us, and I'm okay with that. But I want to, we want to educate it out. We want everybody to understand what the issues are or aren't, and we are looking for, once again, temperature of the room. Do you want us to take the next steps knowing that there's going to be controversy to that and resolve the matter?
So it's a non-binding vote on the select board.
Yep.
Not a non-binding solution to the problem.
Correct. Thank you.
So, as a member of the select board, when we bought that piece of property, I don't know if any of the other, I don't know if Brad's here, I don't remember.
No, he's right behind you.
He's hiding.
And I don't remember if Barry or Richard was on Barry. When we had those discussions and purchased the property, the intent of the select board was to allow the officers to utilize that property in their farming operation.
Right.
It wasn't giving them any other extended, offering them any other extended things that they could do with the property. It was for their purpose only.
Right.
And so I think, you know, anytime things go to court, I know on the state side, when we draft language and there's ambiguities, that they always look at legislative intent and what's the intent of the legislature. The same thing as here, I think, is what was the intent of the select board at the time.
Right.
And so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, of what that we intended for them to use the property for their farming operation only.
Right.
So, I mean, I, for one, would strongly urge the select board to continue to fix this issue. Because I think we're, like, as you said, we're opening the town up to a lot of liability.
I was hoping you'd be here today, Mike, to say that, and that wasn't rehearsed. But thank you. I used the same with similar words, which were the spirit of the agreement, right? I know what the spirit of the agreement was. Everybody knows what the spirit of the agreement was, but that's not what's actually being done on the ground today. So going to your second point, which is potential litigation, that's where we seem to have become, that's where we've gotten, because the normal sort of conversation and agreement at, you know, this level have broken down, and we've found ourselves in a position where the only next step is to take potentially some litigation effort to resolve the matter, and we don't want to do that, you know, without everybody being educated, understand what we're doing, why we're doing that, get your inputs and your thoughts on it. And so that there's a supportive push to resolve the matter. Still continuously looking for the easiest, best solution here. We're not looking to do any harm. We're trying to not do harm for the town.
Renee?
I think, Mike answered a question Renee put. And that is that when it was brought to the lawyers, were they saying that this is like a good, fight if it was brought to court as far as, interpreting the language or anything?
Yeah, yeah, there's, I think Mike also put that correct too, which is, there's a lot of liability, right? There's the town is assuming a lot of risk and liability of the current situation that's going on there, that we don't have an ability to control that. Because we're not the parties that are involved in contracting, leasing, renting. It's
So that's
being,
part of our fight if we bring it to court. What I'm saying is, what are our chances?
I hate the
with
fight
that
word, but
language? I know it is a fight, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you don't like the language, but there's disagreements
Yeah.
on how this wording is. It is a fight that will have to happen and potentially it will have to go to court.
yeah, there's some different opportunities for the board. There's some language contained in the deed now that gives us some other abilities. We do own the land and we do own the soils, and we have a right to use those soils. Now, again, how we develop a plan and strategy to deal with the situation, we have to have a lot more conversation on, trying to keep it out of that court, but ultimately, I think we're at a spot where we know we don't want to kick the can, right? We don't want to give it to the next select board. We want to resolve the issues the best we can, however it plays out.
Brenda?
Can you possibly sell it? If you own it, sell it?
That would resolve it, but.
We could, but that's our gravel pit.
At the ground.
Jim
No,
Cobb.
they won't.
I think the part of this that they're making money on town property is kind of insignificant. But the big picture that this select board has recognized is the potential of, we got deep pockets in this town financially. And who are they gonna come see if tractor rolls over on somebody, something potentially comes up in court? They're gonna come see us. It's the liability is the big deal here. And fortunately, sometimes that isn't noticed. They've noticed it. So I think it's a matter of letting them go forward on the best route here.
Yes, sir.
Smith, I just want to bring up, you said they're going to be corn ground, the issues of the chemicals that go in the corn ground could be a liability as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that and the neighbors actually. Devin?
I just was curious, if it's written in the deed, it sounded like there was legal ways we could go about doing stuff if needed.
Yeah, again, there's some language in there that says, basically the town, we can bulldoze it up if we want to.
Okay.
You don't want to treat people that way though, and now you're dealing with a third party who may or may not even know it's town land. So you don't want to go in there with a farmer who's just spent a lot of money, right? Costs a lot of money to plant corn. We don't want to play those games, but we want to have those conversations, and we've been uncomfortable having all of those conversations without knowing the support for us to have those conversations. And so
Is the vocabulary in the deeds crop rights or agriculture?
ag,
So who gets the forestry that's on the land?
excuse?
Who can cut the trees that's on the land? There's a lot of good trees up there. Because they have agricultural rights, does that give them rights for the forestry, which the state belong?
Well, nobody's thrown that one at me yet. It's sort of all of the above, right? It's sort of really, really loose so that it's totally gone outside of your ability to control it. Don't record that.
Don't give them any.
All right, you ready to go on Article 8? Mike,
We have, off to the side, had that little bit of a conversation. We felt that it was a good seasonal issue anyway to be here because nothing's happening yet, and it gives us that little window between now and planting season to do that. But again, we're kind of looking at you guys saying, are you gonna give us the free rein to fix it for you?
Okay, all in favor of Article 8 as it is written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No or nay? Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Article 9, shall the legal voters of the town
Thank
of
you, Jim.
Coventry vote to appropriate the below expenditures for service agencies, the amount of $26,802. Agencies reports were printed in the town report under service agencies, all to be paid with fiscal year 2026 funds.
You had to amend that.
He did.
He did.
All in favor?
He did in the very beginning.
Wait, no discussion?
Oh, you want to discuss it? Go ahead.
Change this.
Just, I'm assuming really quickly, I see that we
Change
added,
the total.
Holy Town Square for the first time this year.
They were on there in a previous year. They didn't get to us last year, or they missed the deadline, but they were back this year.
Gotcha.
Yep.
We have increases in Northeast Kingdom Learning Services.
Yep, in Jones Library, and I think everything else was the same.
The Vermont Development Association went up, and the Rural Fire Protection also went up.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're not the minuscule changes, but I mean, they just, were there any justification for that, or just everything went up, so we're asking for?
Because we always say yes.
Well, they've supplied.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was it.
Okay, all in favor of our government? The last one. Oh, Wednesday on the waterfront. So that's the free music that goes on in, in Newport. Yeah, with it, you always before Wednesday. Yep. Okay, all in favor of Article 9 as written, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
It's not as written though.
That voice carries 100 votes.
Just say that.
Say as amended. The
Yeah,
$1,000.
Yeah, the $1,000, yeah, amended is about the extra $1,000, but it's in the books.
Okay.
Article 10, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $250,000 for support of the Coventry Town Foundation to be paid with fiscal year 2026 funds?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Discussion on number 10. Leo.
Can I come up?
You may, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm the president of the Coventry Town Foundation. How many people who don't know what the Coventry Town Foundation is? If you raise your hand. So just a few. Most people, so basically, to really be short with it, because I think most people know, the Coventry Town Foundation was set up by the town almost 20 years ago, I'd say, yeah, to take the excess, some of the excess revenue, create a foundation to help for the education portion of our, especially for our college kids, but to also help people in need, to help the school with extracurricular activities. It's kind of, it grew, but not a lot from its original founding. We haven't really changed any of our areas that we fund in the town in at least 15 years. And so what we've been able to do over the last 10 years is consolidate all of our investments like the town has. And we have invested mostly in the stock market through LPL Financial manages it all. We have really not, we can have a say of kind of where it goes, but we kind of let them up to that. We don't play the market, or, you know, they're the one who decide. We tell them our risk, how risk averse we are, and so on, but we don't control the daily investing. And so with that in mind, we've been able to, our budget this year is what, about, I think it's 100, if you look on page 46, where it talks about the things that we've done. And I'll go through real quick. Within this last year, we've held 23 Coventry residents, that would be like households with financial assistance. And what that may entail, a new hot water heater, it might entail money to help go for cancer treatments. It could be money that help, to get there, gas to get there, and so on. It could be money for hearing aids. It could be money for fuel assistance, propane, things of that nature. So that would be the 23 what we would consider household grants. 13 Coventry residents in need of food assistance. We have a food shelf kind of system where you go online, you apply for a $75 food card, which is at Newport Village Market, it's called now, Newport Village Market. And we verify that you're a Coventry resident, and then we send out a $75 food card. That's for people who are really, in need. So it's kind of like a little food shelf, but not having to actually have one. We had 3 Coventry residents continuing education. So one thing we have added in the last 12 years is what's called individual education grant. If someone is like trying to go learn how to be an electrician and they're taking courses, they don't have to be in a they have to be in a certified school, but they don't have to be going for a college degree. They can go for a certificate in welding, they can go for a certificate in nursing, getting the LPN, not LPN, LNA type of thing, kind of what you would call career type of courses. So we did that with 3. We had 10 high school graduates, which we used to be up to 20 for college scholarships. Where are we at the end of this year? 14 that we're doing, and we do right now we do $3,000 a year or $1,500 a semester that goes towards the education of our kids in Coventry that are attending college. We had 2 Coventry, so when they do graduate college, we give them a small gift for actually graduating college kids in the town. We had 8 enrichment programs. What were those, Deb? Oops. Probably, Deb, can I ask you a quick question?
Yep.
The enrichment programs that we have listed here, what type would be in that one?
The enrichment is what happens over at the school for students. So like they have the drummers who come in as they co-drummers. They have the author who comes and they do the little puppetry, puppets. So something of that nature is what it goes. Probably actually Mr. Lee's probably answer stuff as far as what requested from us.
So that's money that's gone to the Coventry Village School to help them do programs that they normally wouldn't do in their budget. And so we've been able to, we're very careful to make sure that it doesn't replace curriculum. It isn't designed to save the school money out of their budget. What it's designed to do is to enrich the children in town to have stuff and to have a little extra, like the drum program, or to go skiing with the JP program, or to have what is it? What's up in Holland where outdoor center? No.
Northwoods.
Yeah, Northwoods, right. There where they came in teaching like skills of how to do stuff outside and so on. And then we had we helped students with sports programs. Things like if they do junior hoop or soccer program and they need some help with that. Funding for SPICE, we've helped funding with basically what we would have called the parents teachers club kind of SPICE. It's kind of like that.
Yes.
Right. And then and today we got the seed program where you should, how do they get those every again?
That was gonna be coming up after the end of town meeting. We do have receipt vouchers, and all you need to do is come see either myself or Carrie, and you'll be able to get your seed voucher.
For 40?
Yeah.
$40, right? That we can use at Agway, either buy like a blueberry plant or buy seeds, and that's available to any Coventry resident. We subsidize that program. We helped with the flood that we had. We were able to help 10 people with the Coventry residents that had flood assistance. A big thing that we do on a regular basis is Deb Lucas, a wonderful lady. She runs the senior meals program here, which is open to anybody in, in the county, or anybody can come. But we do subsidize that each month to pay for like the paper products and some of the food. But Deb works real hard at getting other foods donated, or some people donate when they come to eat. But we do that every week. So there is at least a senior meals program. We did a small, help with Teacher Appreciation Day. We helped subsidize the Orleans what's it called? The soccer football club, OCFC.
OCSC.
I think some people in here know.
Sarah Bethmore.
Right, so we've worked with subsidize, that's a soccer program, summer soccer program, and there's like, what, 60 Coventry children?
She's coming.
What's that?
She's coming around.
Okay. How many Coventry people are in the OCFC?
There's about 35 Coventry kids out of the
Right.
90 that were
Out of 90,
signed up.
right.
So, and we are based out of Coventry schools, so we do trainings in the gym during the winter time, and then we do trainings down in the field during the summer time.
And what's the age group?
It is 7-year-olds through 15-year-olds.
Okay, so that we help to support that. And we help them with the inclusion committee as well. So that's basically what we do. People come and ask us for help. We verify that they are Coventry residents. We make sure we follow our policies and procedures of how people get assistance. We've been working more at advertising to get out more to the community, because there's always new people in the community who are here and they don't know that we exist. But the purpose for the foundation is basically to take our funding and try to help people in need in the community in all these different ways. So the 250,000 we're asking for, our budget runs about 110,000 to actually run the organization. Our goal is to continue to develop as long as we have these excess revenues in the town of Coventry. Our hope is to continue to grow our endowment, which is right now, I think probably about 2.1, 2.2, depending on the stock market. It's not been doing too good lately. So that we can continue to grow that. So in the future, we still will have a foundation that can continue to help people in the community.
Thank you, Leo. Who wants to go first?
Could he stay there?
Oh, yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
You have to sit right here so they can yell at you.
All
right.
Jim, you're going first.
Okay. It appears, if I read it right, okay, that in 6 months, you've gained 333,000 plus in your investments.
Right.
Okay, for 6 months. Last year for the year, 451. You spend, I thought it was 90, but 110.
That's right.
Your proposed budget appears a little inflated, 156 for next year. You're self-sustaining right now, aren't you? Without the help from the town? That's my question.
You mean, yeah, if we continue to get the rate of return?
Yes.
And we continue, and we don't spend at any higher level?
That's right.
For
you budget. You come up with a budget.
That is flat. You mean no growth?
Well, your growth right now exceeds your explanation of what you do. There's a lot
You mean
of
our
extra
budget
things in
growth?
it. You have an explanation of what your foundation provides to this town.
Correct.
It's written in here, okay? Some of the things that and I'm not finding fault with them. I think you do great things. Some of the things that you're doing are rolling a little bit beyond, like, it's good to increase, but like scholarships, things like that have gone up because you had the money, okay? And it's a plus doing all that, but eventually good business means a budget. And you folks within your budget say, this is what we can do this year. The 250,000 was spoke of last year, whereas you suggested you were going to have a sit down and come up with a end of time for requesting money from the town. you and the select board were to meet. I thought last year that goal was about $2 million, and you're 2,333,000 right now. And yes, I realize it depends upon the stock market. And if it goes down, you could see a crisis later on, but there's nothing keeping you from coming back and asking for some help if such a thing happens, rather than the town keep putting 250,000 in this, and you're growing your wealth fund, no different than the town, but that is town taxpayer money. It could go into the wealth fund of the town, and you could sustain a budget that you actually set up every year, that we can't go beyond this. So here's our graduates. Here's, one of the things I questioned was $3,000 budget for the annual meeting. I don't know what the annual meeting is.
Have you attended?
No, but what is it?
It's our annual meeting.
Yeah, but the cost.
And the cost is associated with, we usually have a meal for the people who come, to try to get people to come to the event.
Yeah.
And then
I understand.
that would be the funds that would be used for feeding the people who come.
Yes.
That's what we do every year.
Okay, yeah. Not playing for all of that. I just didn't understand what that was. But that discussion came out last year where you were going to sit down with this group, the select board, and when were you were gonna come up with a date of when we no longer needed subsistence from the town, and you were on your own as a separate entity.
Yeah, that was a discussion that we had, but after discussions that we had as a board, we don't feel it's appropriate for us to promise to future boards how our organization is to operate. So it's up to, as each year, we're better to come to the voters of Coventry and let them make the decision each year of how they're going to allocate their excess revenue. And so if we come every year and ask for allocation of excess revenue to our organization, that's a decision that the town voters should have a right to make every year.
Absolutely.
And we as the board for the Coventry Town Foundation and its membership should have the right to ask that of the town. And that was basically where we've come to at this point.
Okay.
Whereas at the discussion last year, we as a board hadn't really had a chance to discuss it, to really understand what was being asked of us, okay? And it's to us as a board, we feel it's much more democratic to come here and ask every year for funding, as opposed to agreeing that we won't ever ask again. That one is inappropriate for us to bind the hands of future boards and future town. It would take all of the membership to approve something of that nature. And it's always within even the taxpayers' choice to get a 5% and have a special meeting to allocate us funds as well. I mean, there's other mechanisms. So that for us to discuss and say, this is the date and we're not gonna ask for any more and our endowment's gonna be full enough, that after, careful discussion, that really we're not gonna go down that road, because it's just not, to me, in a good spirit of being democratic and letting people decide.
So Leo, then I guess if that's the case, then why not just fund the budget that you guys need? Because if that's the, then your wealth fund will still remain as is, we won't be touching it. But if the voters are okay with it, we can fund what you need for next year, as opposed to adding a little extra to go into that investment fund. Right.
So what you're suggesting is we should ask only for our current budget and not for any more into our endowment.
Which is what we all do with all of our other line items, right? And then.
Well, what you do is you have decided that you rather have all of those funds in the town, which are not, the rate of return that the town can get is different than what we are. Municipalities' hands are much more tied as to how they can invest their money. They have to be much more conservative. They have to be much more, succinct of where they put their funding. For us, we're able to just do index funds and just invest, and we do our rate of return.
There's two different pots of money. Our town investment fund has the only same constraints you do in the CTF. We're in all the good investments that are reasonable for investment. Cash, on the other hand, yes, we're quite restricted.
So you're able to invest anywhere you want.
Once it's in the town investment fund
Okay.
with, it has to be a marketable securities.
Okay.
You know,
Well, yeah,
again,
just like that. I mean,
no
we're not
private
in-
equity and all that
We're
other
not in all
stuff.
these other
You know,
stuff. We're not in
no wacko
cryptocurrency
stuff,
or things of that nature.
Marketable securities.
And so
So,
that's the question, yeah. So then.
so my thought basically is I don't like, I love the work that CTF is doing, right? And so I want to continue funding it. And I do remember the story of like, we're gonna get to that point where we won't need it anymore. And I'm looking at your proposed budget for the next few years, and you're dropping from 250 to 80,000 over the next few years, if I'm reading that correctly.
What page are you on?
104. It's a Coventry Town Foundation 3-year budget, and I'm assuming the dates are a little off, because July 23rd, June 25. I'm assuming that would be 24 or 25 to 26, 26, 27, and so on and so forth.
Well, if you look at page 104, total expenses,
Well, I'm looking at the town appropriations line.
where are you up above?
Yeah, right on top, first line.
Okay.
So to me, what that means that is this year you guys asked for 250,000, and then after that, the next 3 years, it's 80K per year.
It's really not a budgeted item. I'm not sure where the 80 came from.
Actually, it's, this says you're asking for 80,000
this year.
This year.
Right,
Correct.
exactly.
That's why I'm saying I'm gonna
That's,
say that
that's not what the article says. To be clear, the article says.
Right. Right, so the top part really has no factor in our budget. What our budget is the expense side, because we really don't control the revenue side. We don't know how much our investments are gonna return, and we don't know how much the voters are definitely gonna give us. That we have to come and ask you guys every year. So we really, that line is not of any, we do know our investment fee.
That's your income that's coming in though, right? And so, I
Well,
mean,
it depends on what you guys allocate.
I understand, but like, if you guys are projecting and you're assuming we give you 80,000, and even if we do, you guys still will be covered as far as expenses are concerned because of what you have in the investment fund, but that's my point, I don't want.
You mean we would have to start using some of our growth?
Correct, and I'm saying
Right.
we don't touch that because we keep that as a
Right.
rainy day fund, right? And if we're okay with, if the town is okay with funding y'all for the year based
Our
on
operation.
the operational expenses,
Right.
we cover that, but the stock market do whatever it's doing. We don't touch the investment fund till at some point the town says, you know what, we don't feel comfortable funding the CTF anymore.
The operational, right.
The operational side, then you guys dip into it, but till then, we can continue.
Oh, yeah,
funding.
and that's why we're having this discussion. The people here, you know, can decide whether they give us the 250, we take the excess, we put it into our endowment for the future, or do we put it in the town's, you know, money? That's really the real question.
Okay, so
And our board is made up of 8 members of the community. The town board is made up of 3. So there is a big difference on who can decide how your money is spent. It can be 2 people, if it's 2 out of 3 is a majority. For us, it takes 6. And so
we've been pretty transparent on this side. I think we've gone the right way.
Richard, and then Dale, and then Charles.
You mentioned you have a goal of $2 million. Do you have a projection of a amount of money you're going to need to be self-sufficient? 3 million, 4 million, or? I mean,
like again, it depends. It depends on the great rate of growth of the fund, or and what inflation is, what the cost, and how much people are asking us, and how much we allocate based upon, you know, inflation and so on.
Yeah, but should you have a target of what you think you need? Like
I think the target should be created by the voters. The voters can make the target. We,
No, you.
as
make
a
the
board.
target because you're gonna say to the voters, we want to have $3 million in our budget to sustain our program. So you should have I think, have an upper number as well as that lower number. So we can say, hey, this is their target. And we help them there. Right now, it's open-ended. We don't know what you see as your target to make it self-sufficient.
I understand what you're saying, Richard. It is open-ended, but in order for it to continue to be funded, we have to come here and see the voters.
I understand that. When I come here, I say, hey, how much money?
I've already answered
If you had an idea of how much money we might need to keep this program going. It's just, it's not a stone, it's not carved in stone, but it gives the board to say, hey, look, our goal is Right now, maybe $3 million will make it self-sufficient. Is it gonna change possibly? But I like to see the top goal that you think you're gonna need to sustain it, not the bottom. Just a guesstimate, estimate, whatever you want to do. So you must have that somewhere in your continuing estimate.
I mean-
The kind of point is gonna stop. And what is your idea of that point now?
I don't know.
That's what I think you have to look into.
Dale, you're next.
Yes, my concern is, we're talking about whether this 250,000 goes in, and some of it goes into the endowment. But if it doesn't go into the college town foundation, it's going into the town and anyway.
That's correct.
So
Right.
whether we get 2 million here, and I'm not sure what the town has, but you got 17, 20 million, more than $20 million.
Not yet, but we're heading there.
So you're talking $15 million versus the 2 million, so whether they get an extra $150,000
Put in the
put in their
bank.
endowment or comes into our endowment.
Right.
I think our endowment for the Coverage Town Foundation goes a long way helping people in the community, more so because the town cannot do that because their hands are tied on how they distribute money out to people of the town. So I think your money is well spent putting it in the Coverage Town Foundation endowment versus spending it in the town bill endowment.
Charles, then Sheila, then Praneet, then Dan.
So I think you're almost there. I think what makes sense to me is you pick a number that you want to develop fund and you withdraw or budget, 40-some% of that every year. So say you get like 7% inflation adjusted returns every year, so you draw index funds, and you can budget for 5% or something. But still have a little bit left over during the year, and you're almost at that point right now, 2.3, 2.4 million, and then take 5% of that. That's more money than you spent the past 3 years in the budget. In my view, it makes sense is to put the excess money in the town fund. And if you ever get to a case where you need it in the future, just come ask us again. And I'm pretty sure the town will approve the fund. I don't see the sense of funding your wealth fund and not putting it in the town fund, because we'll never get it back if we ever do it together. But I think the town's been pretty generous in the past, that if you get to a place where you feel like you need it and you have a good justification, then we're there for you next time.
Well, it makes sense.
Sheila.
I just want to say that for 2 years in a row, you told us your budget is $2 million, and you do have that. So, yeah.
Well, like I explained earlier, I don't feel it's appropriate for us, like he just said. The difference, you guys can decide to know, we'll just level fund you, and I don't have an issue with that. But I also don't have, I have an issue with us, not requesting funds that we can put into our endowment so that we make sure that we have enough for the future. It's not a lot different than the select board. It's really not a lot different in either way.
The select board has a budget, we don't.
Yeah, we have a budget. We've got it right here.
You're asking us for money, we don't have it.
I'm confused. We have a budget right here. We don't have a budget? What do we have?
Are you talking about the upper limit for their, yeah, I think they're
Oh,
saying
that-
like when you're gonna stop. asking
Right,
for-
right,
yeah.
because again, it's gonna be changed based upon what the voters vote in each year.
Okay, Dan, then guy in the back, then Praneet, then Jennifer.
I just want to reiterate that, the Coverage Foundation does great things. I'm full support of what you guys do. But once that money moves from the town to their hands, it can never go back.
Correct.
It can always go from us to them, but it can never go back. And not only do we want to support them on creating an endowment, so that way we never have to worry about funding it when the tax money does decrease from the landfill, but we also want to think about our taxpayers in keeping the town endowment increasing, so that way our taxes don't increase once we don't have that tax money from the landfill. And at this point in time, they are established, they're spending under what they're making for interest every year. Our town, I don't believe, is at that point yet. So to put the money into the town and to move forward on that, I think is probably more important to most taxpayers compared to the people who are benefiting from the foundation.
Motion to amend the article to say, so 250K, we put it down to 156,250.
Okay, I've got a motion to amend Article 10 from $250,000 to, what was that number, Praneeth?
That's based off of what Leo said, 156, sorry, let me go back to that page.
Well, that's the proposed.
I see it's the 157,599 column, I think is what you're.
I'm looking down here, proposed budget.
Year is July 25 to June 26.
Pretty,
Oh, we're at 157.
pretty, let me say something first.
Okay. The motion's loud there. But go ahead.
Can I?
You can, but with the guy in the back.
Where'd Leo go?
So now, he has a motion, there's a motion on the floor.
We got a motion on the, we got a motion on the floor, Scott, so we gotta deal with that.
157,599 is the budget.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the amount on Article 10 to, what is it,
$57,599.
$599. Okay, is there a second on that? Second? Second, okay. Discussion on the amendment. Jim?
157, just my opinion. It's about 50,000 higher than the last 3-year average of their budget. It's how I see it on the paperwork. It's an inflated price, projected without real information, I think. You don't know how many graduates are going to be. You don't know how many gifts you're going to give to graduates that graduated. Everything goes up. I agree with that, but each year they tend to add a little bit extra nice stuff for townspeople. Nothing wrong with that. But 100, I guess he said 110. He felt it was. I think that's more appropriate.
I think you can only amend it once.
Okay.
So
we're
we're gonna
tried to
vote
stop you.
if we want to amend the amount to 157,599.
Gotta be quicker. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, Jennifer.
Just a question, what happens with the excess funds if you underspend your budget?
Stays
It
in the
goes
down.
into the endowments, okay.
Scott?
That was hard to get in on this one. So I would like to sum it up here in some way. Last year, we stood here. The design of the room was different. Thank you, Dad. This looks nice. Leo and I stood at the front of the room, Leo, and we talked, and we had a nice civil conversation, and we actually made some agreements, right? Those agreements we didn't fulfill. My effort then was to alleviate this day to day. And I think if we had done what we said we were going to do, you'd have a lot better day today. Because what I was trying to get us to do, and I'm going to try it again right now, is to say to you, we're begging you to be doing a better job. Thank you for what you have done. This is much better than what we've been seeing through accounting worlds. But what we're hearing, and what I hear all the time, is that people want to know the end. People want to know what is the goal, just like all of the things that we've discussed today, right? How do we manage our way through a garage? How do we manage our way through a cornfield? This is how we do it. But we have goals, we have shared goals, we have paper and pencil. That's what they're looking for, and that's what I'm going to keep looking for as a select board member. And you guys, you weren't open to it this year again, and I'm begging you to be open to it. What I'm asking for, I think what other people are asking for, is to sit down with the select board to make a memorandum of understanding. That's what we talked about last year. It does not hamstring you. It helps you. It helps everybody in this room to understand the plan, and those things are amended annually. Everybody's right in that the Coventry Town Foundation is wonderful. Everybody thinks that, but there's got to be some guardrails. There's got to be a little more opportunity to listen to the people who are giving the money. And there's creep, right? There's creep here. I'm looking at the bullet points. There's creep that are outside the top of the page bullet points. And so the process of a memo of understanding and a better dialogue with the board that can then come here as a united front for the voters is necessary. Personally, it's at that point where we've got $2.3 million that I asked people to vote no to the garage because we haven't done the work necessary, but we discussed how to get to the goal. We should also say to you no, because it's not doing any harm to say no to you right now and put a little heat on you to say, you got to give us what we're asking for, or else you're not going to get any more funding. A little bit of that goes a long ways, and nobody's trying to put you in a corner. People are looking for the future, the growth, the prosperity sharing, all of that stuff, but they need it in a more transparent, concise way. That's all they're saying to you today. They're not saying anything bad about the foundation.
Well, I don't think anyone on the board takes that. I think it's doing, what's happening right now is exactly what I wanted to happen. I wanted to come before the people with the amount of money that us as a board were gonna ask for, okay? And I explained why, what our thinking was. Then it's wonderful for the people of the town to have a discussion and say, well, no, we would like to do it this way. That's why I'm not committing to saying that we'll never come and sit. We have enough that we could just never come and ask you guys for anything, and you wouldn't have any say. Well, that's not right, except as membership of the come to our annual meeting. Just like you said.
That was like a stick.
But stop, just like you said last year, you said at this meeting, you said, we didn't have to come here and ask you guys for more paving money or more money for a town truck. We could have spent it ourselves, but you guys had that funding to have decided to do that. You decided to ask us as a town whether we wanted you to do that, okay? That's exactly what I'm doing here. We're asking here for the town to decide how they want to spend their money. And our feeling is we should do it every year.
Democracy's working as intended.
Right.
So one thing I'd like to see for next year is, one of the discussion points was the differences between the investment accounts, between what the town's investment can do and what the foundation can do. Can we see a comparison of how they've been? Because that was one of your arguments, was that you're saying that the foundation is able to get better return because of the types of things it's able to invest. That also means there is greater risk, which we can see right now with the economy.
Right.
But it's like, I'd like to see how they perform. Does the foundation have a history of performing better than the town on that? What amount, like the upper limit, like other people have said, do you need to be able to sustain your foundation, your foundation's goals and your mission that the town has given you as a foundation goal? What does the town need to be able to achieve our goal of keeping taxes from going up, going down, shut down? It'd be really nice to be able to see those side by side, and that way, as members of the town, we can go through more easily. Like, make that decision as well.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to amend the main motion amount from $250,000 to $157,599. If you are in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are you opposed to that?
No.
No. The ayes have it. So the article now is $157,599 to the
Well,
Cobham
you can
Town
still vote it
Foundation.
down.
Thank you, everybody. Article 11, shall excess revenues received into the general fund of $500,000 unaudited to be transferred to long-term investment account?
You just amended that article.
Whoa, one person. Mike?
You just amended the article?
Yep.
Now you have to vote the article.
Okay, so Article 10 now reads, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $157,599? If you don't need a motion or second this, we can just vote on it.
So I just want to say that I was on the board when we created this. Brad was. The whole intent of creating the foundation was to do exactly what it's doing right now. Provide for Coventry students, provide for Coventry residents in times of need. We're doing a great job, really appreciate everything that's being done. But also, when we created this, we wanted this to go as, put enough money into it so that it's self-sustaining. And I think we are self-sustaining. And I think we're actually making enough money in there to pay for the budget and also to put more money, continue to put more money away. So I think we need to think about that in the future. And I think that's where the foundation should be looking at. Are they making enough money to pay for their budget? Also, are they making enough money to continue to put more money away? There's no need to come to the town at that point for more money. I think if there's a time when investments go down and we're not generating enough money to cover the expenses or put enough money in to keep the fund up there where it needs to be, then I think that's the time where the foundation should come in and ask the town for money, working with the select board. So everybody, so it's transparent there on state government, on town government, as well as with the foundation. So I think next year when we talk about, maybe we should talk about this next year, depending on how investments go this year. We may not need an article next year. So I asked the board, the two boards, get together and have that conversation, because I think we can eliminate about half an hour of this meeting. Because there's no doubt everybody respects what the foundation does. Absolutely. I think we've really come a long way of providing more transparency of where the dollars are going and how they're being doled out and how the decisions are being made. I don't have a problem with any of that now, but I think what we need to do is kind of get together and make sure that we're not overfunding one where there's no need to, because that was the original intent.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $157,599 for the support of the Coventry Town Foundation to be paid with fiscal year 2026 funds? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Article 11. Shall excess revenues received into the general fund of $500,000 unaudited be transferred to the long-term investment account? Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Discussion on article number 11. Dan, go ahead.
David, can you guys update on what those funds are at and currently?
So Article 11 has a language issue. Someone edited out the fiscal year. And therefore, as stated, it would be this fiscal year. So when you have an article that wants to do anything with money, if it doesn't say the fiscal year, it's right now, which would be fiscal year 25. And we have no idea how we're going to end up. Basically, I can't execute that article as written.
Those funds don't exist right now, is that what you're saying?
It's unlikely that in this fiscal year 25, that we will have excess revenue. We will have pretty much either spent everything that came in or spent more than what came in. The way the budget's currently running. What it was supposed to say was fiscal year 24, when we did have some excess revenues, but it doesn't say that. And because it doesn't say it, it's this fiscal year.
So those funds were available from last year.
Yes.
Can we amend that? Is that
Not the dates.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So you still know in our balance what our investment fund is?
Before,
Roughly.
when I walked in here, don't know what the market's doing right now, 14 million. That's the town's investment account. We have a couple other smaller accounts that are cemetery and the school, but.
So can we, bring this up in other business to make this say 2024?
It has to be an article on there. Other business is just basically for discussion purposes. And no
Gotcha.
more than capability.
Devin? So if we say yes to this, it's a gamble on whether or not we'll have the money to put into the long-term investment, more or less.
I can't execute it.
Can't.
Cannot.
Okay, okay.
If you can't put all of it in, you can't put any, is that it?
No, it's because it's calling for me to transfer excess revenue in this fiscal year, which I won't even know about until next fiscal year, in which case the fiscal year is over.
Yeah.
Mark?
I'm in this dubious accounting world that I don't want to have to answer to the auditor on that. I'm not the one that took the language out. You know, it's.
No. Well, the amount can't.
So we can vote yes, but you're just not gonna do it.
I can't. There's nothing to do.
So motion to table.
You could do that.
Yeah, go ahead, in back.
So, right now, doesn't matter if we voted yes or no on it, it can't be executed. Next year, if we have it rewritten correctly, we take those funds in 2024.
Mhm.
Those funds will still be there for us if we go through the next year, provided we write the article.
Or the next special town meeting. Yep.
And to that point, I would say we would have a special town meeting, so we don't lose a year's worth of investment funds.
That's a good idea. That is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, keep in mind that it currently sits in a money market fund at 4%,
Right.
not in the local savings bank at 0.45. So it's not,
Compared to what, 10%?
Compared to what you don't know.
well, you have no idea, right?
That's a good idea.
But it is, let me just take this quick point that the long-term planning for an investment fund, whether it's the town's investment fund or the Coventry Town Foundation or the state's pension funds, 7%. 7%. Over a very long time, 15, 20 years.
Right.
And you have to take that view with these kinds of funds. You have to.
Okay, so long story short, we have to reword this. We have some money from the last fiscal year that we should be moving in. that we
Yes.
have. Okay, could we have a special meeting for that or vote for that to move those funds in? Because I like the idea of not just, I mean, maybe the 4% is fine, but what are your thoughts?
It's not a huge amount of cash compared to what the town has anyway. So I'm not sure it's worth a rush to a special meeting, but my sense is there'll probably be one.
Right.
I think that we need to understand what the market's doing. I think if the select board, if we see the markets going up and we're losing significant, then the select board should call a special meeting. Otherwise, leaving it at 4% for another year is not gonna hurt us either. So I think we leave it up to the board, talking with the treasurer and make that decision on what to do. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
What are the costs with having that special account to go through and use it if we decide to go that route? What would it cost us? Are there any costs?
No. It'll cost you 15 minutes of your life.
I just, as a longtime investment guy, market timing is a bad idea. Do not market time. It worked out very, very badly for the town the last time you tried it. The 2016 election, you tried it. Very bad results. No market timing. You got the money, you got authority to invest it, invest it.
Move to table.
Second.
All in favor of tabling Article 11, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed to it? Very good. Moving on to Article 12, any business to legally come before the town, non-actionable. Karen, go ahead.
I'm Karen Hackett, I'm the chairman of the President of the Publishing Committee that I mentioned, and I just wanted to get a little bit about that committee, and we're moving into our third year. So those the mission is, to ensure that residents and visitors, residents and visitors are welcome and respected and treated with dignity. That's. And we've had a couple projects. The only other thing I wanted to mention was that we're merging with Glover. They have and to get more of the, those kind of and if anybody's interested in being on the team, just let me know what you want to think about it. Back on time. And last thing I want to mention is that one of the things that the foundation got for us was welcome signs for anybody who welcome signs, people still want signs, and they're in the town clerk's office. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. It's called inclusion.
Sherry?
Didn't we a while ago as a county, decide on something as far as speaker systems and microphones and stuff?
We've got a microphone here somewhere.
Yeah.
I know I don't know where it is.
I'm sorry, I mean, I'm getting old, but sitting in the back, it's like, people face you, people live, we can, I'm not sure, I can't be the only one that is not hearing in this room. And it's like, I gotta strain and I gotta ask what she said. And I think we need to do something with the acoustics when we do our town meetings or any special meetings or anything, so that when someone talks, they can stand up front. I know they don't want to stand up there.
Right, yeah.
But I think we need to do something.
Good
And I
point.
can't be alone on that.
Yeah. Anything else, Mike?
Two things.
Okay.
So last year we talked about reserve funds. So I'm wondering where the board is in determining reserve funds, what amounts. I didn't see anything in the budget. So, what reserve funds should we have? Where should we be funding? What amount should we be funding those to? I think would be helpful.
So what we did a nothing. We didn't impact them. We're not requesting new money in, but we didn't spend any of it. So what's the total on our million? All the reserve funds,
I'm not sure what you mean by not spending. You have to spend some.
right?
Page 38. As this fiscal year is on the reserve funds. And then the next page shows, or the restricted funds to keep my auditor happy. You've got a balance of about 1.57 million. Right across a number of different restricted funds.
So we haven't taken any action on that. We can't, we would bring it here to you. The reception that we got was a little cool
Well,
last time.
I think what I'm saying is that take the time to look at the reserve funds that we have.
Yeah.
Number one, are they adequately funded, or is there too much money in those funds?
Yep.
And let's balance them out. So bring it back to the town, and when we use them, let's replenish them. So
Yep.
let's not overextend the amounts that we have in those funds. So we may have too much money in them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's something for the board to take a look at and possibly bring back to the town.
So
Next town meeting.
So in a nutshell, what we're looking at here, like, for instance, on the expenditures on the pages that David just sent us to, were last fiscal, right? So they ended July. So we've been really hard line saying we don't want to spend that money. We want to work within our operational budgets and capital expenses that we bring to you. We don't want to just keep reaching into those funds because it's just not transparent enough. We want more discussion on garages. We want more discussion on vehicles. So what's likely to happen when we have that discussion again is there's going to be a strong effort by me, and I'm sure others, to say, we got to have a conversation on the whole thing. Not just do we even need it? Do we want it? Last year's discussion was you telling us you were in favor of there being funds set aside for emergency situations, and you never know when a truck burns up. We've had that happen and things happen. My perception of that is that we've gone too far with it because it allows the three people here to make $1.5 million worth of decisions for you. And it's too much. I think there should be emergency funds set aside. But I think that there should be rules on it. I think there should be self-imposed rules on how we account for that and how we bring that to you and show you what we spent and why we spent it. Just like the discussion of the garage work that we're about to do, we can reach into those funds, but this is the time to discuss it. We're gonna let you know, we're gonna spend a couple $100,000 out of those funds to get us to that next level. Just to have $1.5 million, it's already been approved by you for us to be able to spend nearly any way that we want, isn't tight enough for me.
Well, it's not nearly any way you want.
Well,
It's nearly, it's to spend within whatever is in that reserve fund.
when
There's several of them.
when you say roads and infrastructure fund,
So, and getting back to that, I think previous boards had decided to just start the paving project.
yeah,
I think, as you did today.
yeah,
Should have been done back then, would have been asking the voters, do you want those roads paved?
Right.
Before we went out and spent. The board didn't do anything wrong because the
No.
funds were there and the town approved that.
absolutely.
But I agree with you that I think anything major that you plan on doing, I think is good to come back to the town and ask, is that what you really want to see done with that money? Fine with that, but
Yeah.
I still think that that the reserve funds are something that's needed, especially when we're talking about flooding. I think there's times where we need it with the roads and bridges, when
Yep.
something happens to. So that's what I'm asking is
Okay.
to look at those funds, decide what's appropriate for each one and maybe tighten the language up and bring it back to the town so that
Okay.
it maybe restricts you even more on what you can do with it.
Okay, we'll put it together for you for next year. Yep.
And then the second one is, what are we doing with the old church? And are we thinking about, because I don't see any activity there, I'm worried that we've already sunk a pretty good chunk of money into it.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to see that go to waste.
Yeah.
Without us continuing to, number one, what's our vision with the building? What do we want to do with it? And then number two, let's make sure that we're making sure that it's being kept up, so we've not thrown good money after that.
I think the bad answer to that is we don't have a vision. I think we haven't spent any adequate amount of time on that. I raise my hand first and say that I haven't done it. You're obviously correct, we should, so we shall. I don't know what it looks like though, if we do a committee, maybe, we got to get more people involved, Part of what I wanted to say today, I'm gonna circle back around, I'll do it real quick, Matt, is, we really owe these two a thanks. Brand new, 1 year, 2 years, how much there is here that you gotta mentally consume to try to provide product for you. After they get done working all day, they work on your business for you. So thank you to you guys for stepping up. These are the things that take more and more and more time. So we've got to get more and more and more people involved in those sorts of strategic planning process. I don't know exactly how to do that because if history's our guide, people start and then don't follow through with it. So we have to set up something as a stopgap to that. And
Well, and I think anybody that has an interest in that church should touch base with the.
Definitely.
With the select board.
Yeah.
We started that process years ago. And then, we lost our town administrator.
Yeah.
And things kind of got shuffled under the rug. And,
yep. All right.
So I think it's time that we really think as a town to, start putting our heads together again. What do we want to do with that building? And what's it gonna take to get it there?
We will have it on our next couple of agendas and we'll get a refocus.
Okay, Richard first, Stephanie, because he's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Richard.
this deals with the school, but deals with the community too. Last night at the school information meeting, several people, three teams made Coventry very, very proud. It's time for Matt and or Sarah to come out and say what these young people have done in Coventry to make this town real proud.
Well, they had the end of the year Rotary tournament at North Country. Probably 30 or 40 schools participated in it in 3 divisions. They gave out 6 championship trophies on Sunday, and Coventry went home with 3 of them. So we won. Girls teams and a boys team. So we had a very, very successful season. We've got a lot of great athletes over there at the school. They work hard and practice every single day, starting in November. And basketball is a long season. They show up, they work hard every day. They listen to me and AJ, and we're very, very proud of them.
Cool.
I just have a couple of things just to reiterate. See vouchers, Mary and I will have them after. Rabies clinic, dogs. March 22nd, from 1 to 3, Sue Nelson Veterinary in Newport will be here. The cost will be $20. Cats, dogs, just make sure cats are in carriers, dogs are on leashes. Community shred events. Secure Shred will be coming on May 3rd. I believe it was the community annual report. I'm just off the top of my head, it's either, I think maybe 10 to 1. It's a good time for spring cleaning. If you got stuff that needs to be shredded that you can't shred at home, make sure you come during that shred whatever you need to get shredded. So that's for you folks in the community to get that stuff done. So make sure put those on your calendar. Cabin fever, there's going to be a craft and flea market coming this Saturday from 10 to 3 if you're interested in attendance. Lastly, before we get ready to go have lunch, I know I'm starving. Make sure you didn't use these, but use the pink one, place your name on it. If you want some of the birdhouses that we have around, place it in the ballot box over on the other side of the map, and we'll make sure to go ahead and get those drawn while you folks are going ahead and getting your meals. And Kelly from Christella.
Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I'll be really quick so that move on today. But I do just want to take a minute to know that a lot of you know Joey very well. She has, with the company and myself for 21 years. Joe has moved on, and so I have taken over as the environmental compliance manager for our Vermont facilities. So I worked under Joe for a couple of years, and hopefully aim to fill his shoes with a relationship with you all and continuing our ongoing efforts with compliance. We have a public meeting on not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday here at 6 p.m. on our current amendment to our solid waste permit. It's a very minimal amendment. We are just asking to increase some of the residual from our new treatment system storage, so we can store a little bit more and be able to process that a little better. So that's open to whichever conferences. Yeah, and you can read that on the environmental notice board if you want to look at that amendment. And other than that, I'm around. Jeremy is available if you guys have questions. If you want to take a tour, please reach out to myself or Jeremy. I'm happy to do that.
Thanks, Kelly. Stephanie, got something real quick. She's next.
I just wanted to speak on the point of the meeting house. The planning commission a few years ago did poll the town on what they would like to see done with the building. And in the last 2 years, we've had a lot of other projects come through. So it is something that we do plan on working on right off this coming year. We'd love to work with the select board on that as well.
Excellent. Praneet?
Just real quick, where do we end up with Article 6? Are we gonna do a quick straw vote on what we want to do with it, or you guys have a direction y'all need to move forward with the town?
Everybody's looking at me. Well, personally, I say you should just vote no to the article.
I think here is, are people in favor of you continuing on to look at
Oh,
providing, getting, using up to $200,000 to come up with an engineering plan of how we move forward on the new road?
and where we would get that money from, right?
Well, you have to reserve funds.
Yeah.
And that would be part of the discussion. I would say that that's a good idea. It's not gonna impact your operational budget at all.
So,
So how do we?
Put your
proceed?
hand up if you want the select board to move ahead with a. All right,
It's not
that's good.
binding, we don't have to.
We did it.
Right.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Renee.
This is our other
Thank you,
business.
Mike.
This is Renee. So I don't know whether it's appropriate for me to bring it up here, but I'm just wondering if the town is plowing and they destroy your mailbox.
Just,
Okay,
Jay,
so
just call
Yes.
me,
usually
you call
when somebody
me.
smashes some of your property, they come to you and they say, we smashed your property. Here's our insurance. Okay, so this happened to us and it was smashed and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something. And all of a sudden we come back home and somebody's drilled it together and it looks, they did it. I was very happy that they had put the mailbox together so that we could actually get mail. But it seems like that would be something that they would approach you and let you know this happened and this is what we do. So I'm hoping that happens so that we can get this resolved.
Matt, fix her mailbox.
Yep, just call me. We fix lots of mailboxes.
Pressurized water goes right now.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Thank you. Opposed? Good job. Sorry, Chris, we already
Chris?
passed. Thanks, everybody. Good job.
Thank you.
I don't think we got in trouble today.
No.
You did, I didn't. You're gonna get in trouble when you go home. So I've sat in, 10 years ago. Paving's gonna happen. Did you see the holes? I mean, people are nice.
We should.
Well, I mean, people are nice and they don't want to get offended. 4 out of 5 people who see me say, thank you, Mark, I love it. It's clean. It's just the way of the world. It's like, what would I have done 10 years ago? I'd go, no, this is crazy. But
You're gonna pay for what is important to you. I will pay $50.
that